Hi guys. So let's start. We have Rashmi, who is a clinical psychologist. So she's been having experience of 10 plus years. So am I audible? Just someone raise their hand or just leave a comment if I'm audible. Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you. I will just introduce Rashmi. Rashmi, over to you. You can just give a brief introduction about yourself. Then, in the end, probably we can have some chit chat and we will know about each other. Will that be okay? Cool. Thank you. Over to you, Rashmi.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar. I think even before I introduce myself, I would like to know the audience here because I think you kind of got my profile while registering. But I would like to know who are the participants and what is their background and what is the reason that they actually registered for this webinar.
Yeah, hi, this is Charishma. So I know Rashmi as a psychologist. I know that she is one, so she's been practicing one. So since we are in this time of Corona and there's been a lot of talk about how mental health is being affected in this situation. Though personally, I'm not sure. I think I have been affected by it. I would still like to know how does one person know whether you're affected or not? If I think I'm not, I'm pretty fine. But if it is affecting me, so I would like to explore something like that and see if that can be discussed in this seminar. Personally, I am from the media background. I work in the publishing field as in magazines and newspapers as a writer, and psychology is something that's really interesting for me. So yes, that's why I've joined this seminar.
Thank you, Charishma. Navin, you want to go next?
Yes, sure. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Naveen. I'm from Rajasthan, and right now I'm not doing anything professionally, but I do a lot of freelance jobs. So I have a lot of free time. Okay. And the reason I joined this webinar was that there is a lot of confusion about when it comes to mental health. The more I read it, more I get confused unless I don't have a professional say of someone. So when I'm staying at home and I have some days, there are some days I hit my energy to the bottom, and so I'm not sure, is it my mental health or is it something else causing it? So I probably want to know more about it when I attend it. That's it.
Thanks, Naveen. Meher, you want to go next? Meher, unmute.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, Meher, you are audible.
Okay. Hi, first of all. So I am a undergrad student. I'm in first year and I'm doing psychology. So when I was looking for internships on Google, I found this page, Ivory India. And when I went through it, I found it quite nice and approachable for people to get regular sessions. And of course, I was always passionate about, looking for something which is related to psychology. And mental health is a topic which I'm really interested in. And when I actually saw that yes, there's going to be a session on mental health, so yeah, I registered. And yeah, that is all I would say because I'm just a first year student. I don't have a lot of experience, I would say. But yeah, I look forward to a great session here. Thank you.
Thank you, Meher. Surbi, you want to go next?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Surbi.
Yeah, hi. I am Surabhi from Bangalore. Professionally, I am associated with social sector from past 3 years, and professionally, right now, I won't work, but I'm volunteering with some organizations as well. And mental illness, I just want to explore what is mental illness, and that too during this COVID time. So, yeah, I want to explore more about mental illness. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Survi. So, over to you, Rashmi.
Okay, so thank you so much for your introductions. I'll let you know a little brief about myself. I've been in the mental health or psychology profession for about a decade now, and I have worked in various kind of domains. I worked with NGOs, hospitals, corporates, created content, done research, and also taken up clients. So I kind of realized how a lot of things are interconnected and we cannot ignore the mental health or psychology aspect of our lives, whether it is, related to marketing, whether it is related to actual physical health. Everything is somehow related to our mood, what we think, and especially during this time, right? Uh, we see it's been around 4 months since the very first case of someone being infected by the coronavirus was actually reported. And we are 2.5 months into the lockdown. Um, I don't know whether you guys remember, but the very first time I actually realized the gravity of this situation of the epidemic or the virus spread was when I actually saw an explosion of these memes that don't touch your face memes. And I could not relate to them, and neither did I understand the context. It's only later that I connected these memes to this earlier news that I had read about an outbreak of some new virus in a certain part of the world. That's when the seriousness of the situation became kind of evident to me. A lot of people actually told me that they did not even realize there was an epidemic in a certain part of the country, of the world till the social distancing was announced. And for some, I think the seriousness hit them only once the lockdown was announced. Um, I think there was no sense of urgency in all of us, right? This was never our reality. Even after WHO announced that it was a pandemic, which means that the entire world will be affected, it wasn't really our reality yet. So we never took the whole thing seriously. But right now, we are all struggling. We are all struggling with the difficulties, with the side effects, with the fallout of the pandemic because we realize that the pandemic is a serious thing, but there's more to this pandemic because usually disasters, whether man-made or environmental, is followed by an inflow of mental health concerns. And it's only like in the recent few decades, have people, maybe authorities or disaster management organizations realized that mental health is something that has been ignored. It's not just rebuilding infrastructure, right? It's rebuilding the resilience of people, rebuilding how people cope. That is very, very important. And when we talk about the current situation, like the name of the virus, right? It's novel. That automatically means it's something new. It's something we've never seen before. That's why if you hear the news, the word unprecedented is so overused. We had absolutely no clue what really hit us. So when we think of our community, right, the entire community as a collective whole, as one entity, we see that the psychological response of the community or as a whole actually percolates, seeps in, and dominates the narrative of each individual. So it's like a body, right? The way the body reacts, the things that body does, affects every cell in our body. And the same way, the response of each cell affects the entirety of the body as well. So the same way, this pandemic is part of our narrative, and how the community responds impacts our story. So it's like it has a profound impact on how now our future would be. There was a path that we were taking, and this pandemic hit us, and obviously we have lost our path in some way, and we're trying to get back on track or find our path again. Each one of us also respond differently to any kind of stressor, and this is huge. This is quite traumatic, and how each one of us respond kind of spreads and swells and snowballs into this collective response of the society as well. So it impacts us. How the majority of each one of us respond to it will affect the entire deal with this problem. And when we look around, when we read the news, there are a lot of news of loss and death, and it's very difficult. But then we've also seen in numerous acts of selflessness. There's so much empathy that we see around, compassionate acts, and many are actually showing a lot of resilience as well. I mean, we cannot ignore that. But this is huge. This is a trauma. This is kind of kickstarting or activating our survival instincts in a way, right? We're just trying to cope somehow. And one of the common things we are all using is denial. Denial has been the most common method of coping with this particular pandemic that we have observed around us. There's a lot of feelings of helplessness and bereavement as well. So the impact of coronavirus has to be looked as a whole. It cannot just be seen as a health issue or life threat, but seen in terms of how an individual reacts, a society reacts, and the connectedness of the whole thing. Before we kind of explore the mental health or emotional aspect of it, we need to understand all of this, because mental health or emotions cannot be explored in isolation in a way. So before we go forward, there are so many of these industries that have gotten affected. Actually, everything in the world got affected. The health sector was in the epicenter. It was the epicenter of this pandemic, right? Like the center of this pandemic hitting was the health sector, and it has had a far-reaching impact on the lives of healthcare workers, cleanliness workers, as people that we never even considered in a way. It has really impacted them. The government policies, and the considerations that they make have also gotten affected. How the government was working has just come to a halt, and even they are kind of still trying to understand how to respond to all these things. Their acts, in a way, the emergency responses that they made has kind of violated our rights, right, our freedom, and some of them would actually become permanent features of our society as well. So we need to be prepared for that emotionally and mentally. In terms of economy, if you see the budget allocation, the impact on business, there's been reduction of investments in small sectors, as the import-export has gotten affected. That has also led to a lot of loss of jobs. And that is one of the main concerns that a lot of people are facing. There's also fear of a future loss of jobs. The agriculture sector has been affected. The education and the way the education sector works. The tourism has completely come to a halt, and it's called a lot of also kind of caused a lot of unsettled relations between countries. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of racism happening. Also, this kind of pandemic exposed the inadequacies of various sectors and even our lives. There's a gross neglect of certain groups in our society. In terms of our social life, which is the main concern, I think we are all trying to understand. This is social distancing. This lockdown has restricted our movements, has kind of caged us in our homes. There's work from home happening, and we're still trying to understand, how to stay motivated, how to continue working with the same energy that we used to at work. Things about hygiene and cleanliness have suddenly changed. We'll talk more about that. I mean, it has seriously changed a lot, even though it's so basic. It has changed the way we think about all these things. And I will, ask you, even me as a mental health expert, we all have been feeling this discomfort, right? There's this uncomfortable feeling that we feel each and every day. This is bereavement. This is grief. As a community, we are grieving right now. It's as if we've lost something, right? Loss of freedom, loss of identity, loss of job. There's a lot of loss that we are experiencing, loss of lives. We definitely can't ignore that. And so there are a lot of stages that we go through when we are grieving, right? And we can actually see the entire process, unfolding during the past few months. One of the first things, I think one of the first reactions, if you remember, when the community as a whole, I would say, was that we just denied. This is nothing. This is just a regular flu. This will come and go. It will not affect us. We're quite immune to this. This is happening in some other part of the country. It will not come here. Maybe it's happening in some other part of the world. Like we are safe, and this is nothing. This is, I think, the government is overreacting. That is us in denial, right? Then kind of anger set in, and there was a lot of resistance. And even after social distancing was announced, and even after lockdown was announced, a lot of us did not follow it, right? Because it's like how people say, right? My life, and it's going to be my rules, and the government cannot tell me what to do, and this is, you can't curb my freedom, and this is my right, and stuff like that. And people started also getting angry with people who were not following this, who were resisting. Because, for example, I am following everything that the government says, and there are a few people who are going out and kind of spreading the infection. It causes a lot of anger in me. It is natural, right? It's because of some other people that this lockdown gets extended, and I get stuck in my home further. So even the government, if you remember, like initially there was the government announcing that we should appreciate the health workers and show gratitude. There was lighting of diyas happening. Guilt, right? Because later there were discussions about how this noise pollution was causing a lot of issues to people who have sensory sensitivity, about how this will not help health workers, that there is a lacking in terms of basic equipment in the hospital. And so all of this anger came out towards the government, towards a certain country, towards certain kind of people. So that was the second stage. And then this anger kind of settled down, and there was no more anger. There was bargain happening. We were bargaining that, okay, I will stay indoors for 2 more weeks. Will I be safe then? Will I be able to go out then? So people were ready. Okay, now we will follow whatever the government is saying. Hopefully we'll be able to get out in 2 weeks. But now we've reached a stage of despair. It has really hit us that we don't know where this is going. It is making all of us anxious, and nobody is safe from this. Let me tell you, all those people out there who look like they're dealing with it well, they also have their weak moments. This is a natural set, right? We are really this entire humanity is at risk in a way. So it is natural to feel anxious, but then to kind of take a positive direction, there should be acceptance. And we will talk about acceptance further in the session. So also kind of you need to understand these stages that I'm talking about are not fixed. Please understand that this is theoretically we divide our grief into stages, but then nobody actually, it's not that every human being that we know follows all these stages in this order, or actually goes through these stages. Maybe most of us might have skipped certain stages and reached acceptance. Maybe they just were in denial and jumped to acceptance. Sometimes we oscillate between the two. We had reached a place of bargain, and then we went back to denial that, okay, I cannot, continue with this, and I really need to get out. We're in the green zone. When the zones were announced further, people in the green zones were like, okay, now we are safe, we can get out. So the denial was coming back. So these stages are stages we experience at different times and kind of oscillate between the two, between all these stages. So again, okay, coming back to, I think this is a question that I have for the audience or the participants, that our lives changed overnight, right? Like it was, especially in India, it was just like one day lockdown was announced, and from the next day onwards, we were all confined to our homes. Our immediate world was the four walls of our home. I would want to know, how did we start, like all of you start to react to it? What were the things you did? How were you managing the lockdown when it started? This is for the audience, so anybody who wants to contribute or want to answer this question, please go ahead. Does anybody have anything to say?
I was in shock actually. Like I'm an outdoor person, so
Mhm.
all of the sudden I felt my freedom is being taken away. I didn't know how to
Mhm.
survive.
Mhm.
That was definitely affecting me.
Okay. And what were the things that you were doing once you were in lockdown, besides like kind of working from home? What else were you doing kind of to cope and manage with this change that you experienced, the sudden change?
So everything became virtual because nothing else we could do. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to like probably oversleep or like just watch something. I would not say I was coping, but I would rather like just waste my time and think about what I can do at home. So then I started
Mm-hmm.
reading.
Mm-hmm.
Advantages were there, but still, I felt I was stuck and I couldn't do anything. I was helpless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything else, Amrita?
No, that's all.
Anybody else wants to say something?
Yeah, Rashmi.
Yeah.
Initially, like I was also shocked. I mean, seeing
Mm-hmm.
like sometimes I felt like our life has become like a full stop kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because like it was like, see, we do virtual thing, but still the effectiveness is not there. When we meet the
Mm-hmm.
people, the networking will come, but
Mm-hmm.
when we sit at home, do virtual things, like it may be online or it may be attend some online classes or something, but
Mm-hmm.
felt like, I mean, we were not expecting this. 2020 has become like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
halt kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are these quotes or kind of memes going around, right? Like people say that we don't want this 2020. Let's skip to 2021, or maybe let's restart, or because this was something that we never thought would happen, right? We've heard, and pandemics or epidemics are not something new. This has been happening if you look at the history, but all the people living right now in this world are not equipped to cope with this. Like a lot of people were there when the World War was happening, but right now even war is a situation that we're like, okay, yeah, certain parts of the country are they're battling and there's war happening, but it is never part of our immediate reality. We just read it as a news and go ahead. And even the plague happening and the pandemic and all those epidemics and pandemics in our history is just history, is a story, is a moment that is gone by. It's just an information for us, and now we kind of living it, right? We're absolutely living it right now. So a lot of people, including me, we all started. I think when we had a lot of time on our hands, there was no traveling anymore. There weren't other things distracting us. People started pursuing hobbies like learning a language, learning a new skill. So there's a lot of learning happening, right? New things. People started cooking, like a collective cooking, experimenting with it. There were game nights and video calls. People all felt we're really connecting with our friends now, considering now that we have time. Wanted to manage time properly, wanted to be more organized. There was a lot of people getting back their, physical health by exercising, yoga, meditation. Sorting out their house was another thing that people were doing. Also, I think resting. A lot of people wanted to really rest, right? That now finally they have time and they want to really relax. But then all of these things, like Amrita had said, that I'm not sure whether I was coping with it, right? But then what do you mean by coping in a way? I'll tell you. So when you talk about coping, there are two focus areas, right? Either you cope with the emotion, or you actually cope with the problem. So, for example, Surbhi was talking about, being connected with friends and, working, the effectiveness of being connected to people when it's actually face to face. So a lot of people right now are facing, feeling lonely, right? So that is the emotion or the feeling that they're facing. And so the coping mechanism is to kind of pick up the phone or call your friend or spend more time with family. Uh, but if you focus on the problem is that we can't get out and physically meet people, so we will go ahead and kind of make a appointment for a video call. Right now we're all like, okay, let's get on a video call, maybe Friday night, maybe Saturday night. This is focusing on the actual problem, that people might be busy with household chores, not burdened with so much work which is happening right now. So we have to see what we can control and what we can't control. And what do you want to control? Is it the control or kind of cope with? Is it the emotion or is it the problem? And also, like in usual life, that's what I was saying, that even in life before the pandemic, there were a lot of things we could not control as well, but we were distracted, so we never realized that they're not in our control a lot of times. And all of these new things that we started doing, right, learning and taking a time out for ourselves and pampering ourselves and getting in touch with friends and learning a new thing, are we still consistently doing, like after 2.5 months of this lockdown? No, because uh, consistency is getting affected, because it's like a brand new habit that we are trying to form, and that too during a pandemic. Because these aren't things that were part of your daily life before the pandemic. Pandemic is already traumatic in itself. We're still trying to deal with it, and as I told you, it's a threat to life, it's a threat to survival. So during that time, we are just scraping through. And during that time, if you kind of try to bring in a completely new regime or routine, you will not be able to stick to it, because your body and mind are in survival or fighting or running away mode. Kind of an actual threat is in front of you, so you don't have time to learn and cope and use your body and mind for these things. So that's the reason that we are not able to be consistent with what we were thinking we'll do with all this time that we have, right? Uh, and kind of our traditional coping strategies, like I told you, coping is how we deal with our problems, right? Just so that it does not affect us in our life, our routine in any way. And our traditional coping mechanism was distraction, right? There was a lot happening in the world. We did not have time at all. And each one of us say this, that I was in a bad mood, but I kind of distracted myself. So I did this. I was feeling lonely, I just went out with my friends to a pub, or went out and watched a movie. We ate outside. But none of that is there anymore. There's no more distraction. And you now have to face the actual emotion, the actual thoughts that you have, because you were never noticing them because of all the light and sound and distractions of the world. But now you just have your home and the people there. So people were also asking me, how will I know whether I have a mental health issue, or how do I know when to seek help, or when do I know? Sometimes I don't know that I am in a bad mood. How do I know that I actually am in a bad mood? Like, they cannot identify or connect to their own emotion and feelings, but it does manifest itself or express itself. Somebody also spoke about, I think Naveen spoke about not having energy, right? So I think it is because there are other thoughts happening in your head. So I'll tell you what are the things that you will observe, the manifestation that you will see in your daily life that are actually mental health concerns. So one is, you will actually see a lot of irritability. In the last 2.5 months, I think people's patience is running low, and we are all much more quickly irritated than usual. There is a lot of sleep issues. Either we're sleeping a lot, or sleeping, not, not sleeping at all, or maybe the schedule is completely gone for a toss. The biological clock is just messed up right now. Eating patterns have gone for a toss. They're not hungry anymore. They're overly hungry. Eating a lot of junk, cannot stick to healthy eating patterns because we need to cook all the time. So we're just tired of all this. And the sleeping pattern and eating pattern automatically affects the energy level of your body. Also, we have no physical exercise happening, right? Even those who did not consistently go to a gym or exercise or do yoga, you were still moving around somehow, right? At work, just going, grabbing food outside. So there was a lot more movement happening when there was no lockdown than it is now. So I think the body is not releasing energy. It's only when there's movement and the metabolism actually releases energy that we will have energy. So that is the reason people say that, I did not do anything the entire day. Still, I feel, that I have no energy. It is because of this. There's lack of movement in our body. The metabolism is not as active as usual. And the same with lack of productivity, concentration, focus. When there are other parts of your life get affected, it automatically affects the concentration, focus, energy, the productivity, because there's lack of stimulation. Again, there's lack of stimulation as well. There's the same people that we see, the same things that we're doing. So even the activities that we used to enjoy earlier, because that was not that often and it was not imposed, now we don't, we're not interested in doing it anymore. There are more addictions. So you can see what addiction pattern you have. It could actually also be food. Food also is very addictive, right? But we don't talk about it as addiction, but you will see a lot more people are indulging in alcohol, in various kinds of drugs, smoking, to kind of distract themselves, because that's the only distraction they have now. There is a lockdown, but people are also kind of imposing isolation, like self-imposed isolation, where they're not keeping in touch with other people, especially people who already have pre-existing mental health issues which were not dealt with. A lot of negative self-image. That is also something that people are experiencing. Now, even after I say all this, please understand these are things we all go through, even during normal times, during good times. We all go through a time when we are sleepless. But even right now, so even if you're coping well, there will be days of low productivity. There will be days where you have complete negative self-image. There will be days you don't want to talk to anybody. You are irritated. But you have to see if this is a pattern. If this is your normal routine, having sleep issues, having disrupted eating habits, lack of concentration is normal for you, is what you deal with every day, then I think it is a pattern and you need to really stop and kind of seek help in a way. Also, sometimes it is not about mental health, right? About seeking help in terms of going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a couples counselor, relationship counselor. You don't have to wait till the lag ends, right? Even for physical health, even if it's a small concern, we do seek a doctor's help or professional's help. The same way brain is an organ, and I'm sure you would have read about this, heard this numerous times, but I can't emphasize this enough. Your brain is an organ. Thinking, emotions is the faculty or the work that your brain does. So if you feel this is, the patterns are not helping you, that means your brain is not functioning properly, right? And people always relate anything related to mental health to straight away things that they see in the movie, which is extreme, which is psychosis, which is people talking to themselves, people becoming very aggressive. That is part of psychiatric ailments, but even small stress starting to disrupt your life, you need to seek help. So the first thing is actually stopping and saying, yes, there is a problem, right? So we all understand, yes, to go. Second is would not be enough. There is a reason that you don't lack energy, right? And so you will say, okay, because I don't exercise and I'm not eating well and I'm not sleeping properly. So you understood the reason for it. But why are you not eating properly or sleeping well? So then identifying the feeling behind all this, why you are not able to do all of these things, which are basic, right? Sleeping and eating are normal things, but still there's something bothering you that you are unable to do these basic life, things in life. So, so this is a moment when I'll say, kind of re-emphasize again that denial is not the way to go ahead. Saying that I'm absolutely fine and I'll deal with it on my own is not the way forward. Denial is one of the key reasons people are struggling to kind of adapt to this new reality or even to seek out help. Also, think of a solution, thinking of a solution, just thinking of a solution without actually identifying and accepting and recognize the feeling is not the right way to go. If you ask me. So again, like Surabhi and Amrita said that they've been feeling shocked, right? That first reaction was of shock. Uh, can anybody else tell me what they have been feeling? Like besides feeling shocked initially, what are the other feelings that you're feeling since the past 2.5 months of lockdown?
Hi, I can share my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi.
So honestly, quite contrary to a lot of other people that are feeling anxious or restless or angry or irritated, I have actually kind of been feeling very relaxed, and I don't know. I feel this is a pretty good time. It's a very good period that has been imposed on us. A period of restfulness, a period where you're supposed to slow down, and it's this. It's a forced period of rest that everybody needed, a break that everybody has always wanted, and now that you finally got it, just enjoy it, just accept it. And I don't know, I think people are finding it hard to accept this period of rest and this period of recovery and relaxation, which you've always wanted, and now that you have it, people don't know what to do about it. So I have kind of accepted it well, I think, for myself. And I've been very relaxed, very calm about it, and I'm enjoying it. Honestly, yeah, of course, I'm being very lazy and not being productive. Initially, in fact, when the lockdown started, at least the first 3 weeks, I was also quite restless in the sense that, there was this whole talk about everywhere on social media was a buzz. What should be doing, utilizing this time effectively. So I was kind of coming under that pressure that, oh, I also need to do something about it. But then slowly I accepted it, and I realized that I cannot force myself to do things just because there is this precious time available, so much of it. So I just took it with the flow, and I just allowed myself to do what I want, not what I should be doing. I think that really affected me well, because I became a lot more peaceful, and all that restlessness, all that energy, that pressure eased off. And very gradually from the next month onwards, I think the second month onwards, I was more able to actually find a rhythm to my day-to-day life, to my schedule, and I started doing things that I wanted to do. So I thought, instead of pressurizing myself, when I just went with the flow, I was able to cope up much better.
That's excellent.
That's what I feel.
I think just the way you kind of put your thoughts into words is very effective, right? Like those are words that everybody needs to hear, like, accepting and doing what you want to do instead of what the pressures of like social media, of other people, the kind of box that people have created that we all need to fit in, right? We have our own ways of coping, and it's now that when we pause and think about it, that we realize that what we actually want, we actually desire, because so far we were living a life that was kind of defined by the society. Right now there's no society looking at us. That is what we've realized. There's nobody looking at us. We are inside our homes, free to live or do things as we want. And the whole point of about productivity, I think the lockdown productivity hype is so so kind of inducing so much guilt in people. Social media has become this kind of performative platform, right? There are now everybody is kind of seeking that validation people sitting and scrolling through social media, see these people doing a lot of things every day, and start feeling guilty that whether they are not doing enough, whether they're not coping the way they should. So, but the point is, stop and think whether the things that they're doing is what you also want to do. They might be doing things that they want to do, right? So that is something that you need to stop and think. Also, a lot of things about discipline is being said, right? That the whole point about time, Charishma, that you said, that yes, people have time, and it's great that a lot of people have the resources, whether mental, emotional, or social, to kind of come out of this, kind of pull themselves out of it. It could be just you. It could be just that I have the emotional and mental capacity or resources to pull myself out of it. But this is unusual time. This is something so different. Our body mind does not know how to react. So a lot of times, saying that we lack discipline is also not right. There is a balance. Yes, we have to observe if we are on the right path, whether the pattern of our behavior and our coping is on the right direction. But kind of defining yourself by saying that I lack discipline and that's the reason I'm not able to do that will not help you. Okay, so know what your internal dialogue is and how you talk to yourself about the whole thing. It is okay for you to not be productive for forever, for that matter. It is absolutely your life, and productivity is different for different people. What is productivity is something that you will define, right? And in a way that kind of affects your self-worth also, because as I said, there is an absence of those traditional platforms to seek social validation. We have always been obsessed with this goal achievement and defining ourselves based on the goal that we achieve. Hustle culture is kind of encouraged, that we work so hard and we've been working 24 hours and we're doing overtime. We're so obsessed with that kind of lifestyle. But now when you pause and think, you really want that kind of a lifestyle, right? And also, it is not necessary that it is not easy for us to kind of stop and just think about it or look at it in a positive way. It is okay to feel whatever you're feeling. It is okay to feel anxious. It is okay to not be productive. It is okay to be fearful. But then how long or how intense is the point? There's also a lot of about guilt. When I say talk about guilt, there's also a lot of survivor's guilt. People see other people around us who have nothing, who are abandoned on the road, especially migrant workers. And there is this feeling that I should not grieve. I should not be sad. I'm so entitled. I'm so privileged, and this behavior is so entitled. And look at them. I completely like what they're going through is far worse, right? But our emotions are very subjective. Is compared to what we were feeling earlier, not compared to somebody else. There's no measurement of feeling that we have, right? You have the right to feel whatever you feel. There has been sadness, there has been death, there has been a lot of sadness in the world even before the pandemic. But that does not stop everybody in the world from living their life, right? And also, in a way, if you feel that there's a lot of guilt, I think helping, kind of showing a lot of empathy and compassion to other people around you will reduce the guilt. If you feel you are privileged and you have everything, maybe helping others out is also important. And privilege does not only mean physical aspects, right? Not only financial aspects, it's also your mental and emotional aspects. Maybe you are more resilient than somebody else, so you can utilize that mental and emotional strength to kind of help other people cope with it, right? again, about productivity, people are expecting to do a lot of new things. Like I said earlier, we're trying to do a lot of new things right now during this time, and it is causing burnout. It is causing, there's this expectation that we have from ourselves and from other people, which is causing a lot of kind of burnout and anxiety further related to productivity. So, and some of the things that I have heard people say is, there is no meaning to my life, right? But what would make your life meaningful? You have not still not thought about it, right? We have not stopped and thought about it. Like I have said earlier, there were so many distractions. We never thought what is the purpose of our life and what makes our life meaningful, right? And but then you realize that everything that we're doing or not doing is actually helping the world. It is meaningful. You not getting out of the house is very meaningful, because each one of us can make a difference to the spread of this pandemic, and can kind of uh, stop the spread of this virus. And also, whatever we do individually at home makes a difference to each other also, like whether it is friends or it's family. The way we contribute to our offices also makes a difference. So saying that my life is not meaningful, uh, you need to stop and analyze what purpose and a meaningful life actually means to you. And like I said earlier about goals, you are defining yourself, you're defining meaningfulness and purpose in your life based on the things that you do, based on an achievement, a promotion. There's something out there in the physical world. But now I think it's time to go inward. Like the pandemic, you have to stay inward. So the same way, you have to think inward and say, what are the values that I hold? What are the actual things that I like and I value, and which are important to me, right? So when we kind of ask each other these questions, right? That if you were stuck on an island, who would you take with you? What would you take with you? So I think it's that time that you're stuck on the island. What are the things that you actually value and which are important to you, that you cannot let go, and the reasons behind it. So it's really time to think about these things. There's also, again, as I said, there's bereavement, right? There's a loss of identity, there's a loss of freedom, there's a lot of space, a loss of space, loss of emotional support, loss of social context. Everything was based on how we kind of compare ourselves in a particular setup. There's also loss of your own time, your me time. So I think that there's a lot there also happening. And the insecurity and anxiety that we are all feeling is because, again, the situation is new and feels like a threat. And there is a change in routine. There is these words about, this being the new normal, the new kind of life. There is scope of flexibility, yet there it's confined, right? The flexibility is within a confined space. The familiar patterns and routines are missing. There's lack of, again, people talk about, because the patterns are missing, we are unable to stick to a schedule. Our day looks haywire, and that's what makes us feel that there's no meaning and purpose to life. And the future looks so uncertain. There's the tendency to be obsessed about certain thoughts, obsessive cleaning, obsessive thoughts about loss. Anything, when we lose a sense of constancy, a predictability, or a routine, a continuity, essentially, we do feel that a sense of well-being is kind of unstable. A sense of autonomy and control goes for a toss, because of all these changes, right? Everything has changed. The foundation on which we built our lives has changed. So that instability is what we need to kind of adapt to. And people have health anxieties also. So people with pre-existing anxieties, I think this time becomes overly, like, kind of overwhelming, and the responses are going to be extremely strong for them as well. So back to the whole point of lockdown, right? People's relationships are really getting impacted. Individually, people are feeling isolated, they're feeling abandoned, they feel the kind of government has robbed us of the social support or setup that we had. Relationship dynamics are being tested. are truly being tested among couples, between the parents and children. You are alone doesn't really make you lonely. Like, this is something that we've always heard. Alone does not mean lonely, but there's actual loneliness kind of kind of seeping into our lives. There's emotional isolation as well, and people are getting frustrated with each other because of the expectations they have, right? There are some forced socialization which is happening, and sometimes we don't have the energy to socialize, but we end up socializing because we are scared of letting go of that small contact that is left in our relationship. And now we are realizing that our relationships are not based on shared experiences anymore. We are all confined to our homes. So just staring onto the screen with each other, sometimes we don't have things to say. And so the now whatever connections with people that you make have to be very, very intentional and depth based, and cannot be, surface level things anymore. There's nothing left out there that we can talk about, right? How much can you talk about Netflix? And now we realize that the relations that you're making are going to be very mindful, conscious, and intentional. That's the way to improve the relationships that you already have. And everybody's coping with the situation, just not you. So it is really important to understand that you're responsible for what you're feeling, and you cannot give the power or feel that other people it's other people's responsibility to kind of relieve you of the pain, the loneliness, or make you feel worthy, or make you feel alive. Whether it's your spouse, whether they're your friends, whether it's your parents, or whether it's your boss, they are not responsible to make you feel or not feel a certain emotion. It has to be you. Right now, everybody's struggling with all these emotions, right? Uh, Again, it's about you facing yourself, right? Becoming comfortable with ourselves and really realizing and noticing the patterns of thinking that we have. So it kind of comes back to the kind of vocabulary also we use around this pandemic and lockdown. People talk about the first thing, I think, the social distancing and social isolation, right? Also, that people talk about. I think the word is physical distancing and physical isolation that we have to practice. It is not about how we interact with each other. It is basically, it's about the physical distance between the people. It's not about the emotional or mental connect. But constantly talking about social isolation, social distancing is making us feel lonely. Making us feel abandoned in a way. Because we are kind of adapting this into a new way of socializing, right? It's not that we stopped socializing. It's just a new way of socializing that we have now. So that is again one of the things that we have to realize. Also, the words like a pandemic attack, a viral attack, the victim, the health workers are called warriors. We are having a fight against corona, and they are in the line of fire. They are working on the front line. These are so anxiety provoking. There is no war going on. Constantly reading and hearing words like this, words like uncertainty, things, it just makes coping difficult. We really have to reword the way we kind of describe our day, our feelings, or just, I think the media has to become more responsible in the way they kind of interact with the public. Somebody also once said that it's apocalypse, right? It's like an apocalypse, but we still do not understand what apocalypse means. Like the word, it's not the end of the world. Apocalypse actually is a word with a Greek origin, which means to uncover. And actually, we've really uncovered, like Charishma had mentioned, we have uncovered and realized a lot of things during this pandemic. We've really stopped, right? We stopped. It's like while we are going on the road, we have to stop and pause and observe before we go ahead. So it has made us stop because we were just like driving as if we are on a highway, not stopping, just thrusting forward. And the pandemic was like this stop sign to stop and think and reevaluate what's going on. And a lot of out there are feeling that they are privileged, and there's a lot of gratitude to people around us. And when you look at your life, there will be those things that you will be grateful about. I'm not talking about looking at the silver lining. I'm not talking about be grateful, but there it is a some days feel. There's also a lot of interconnectedness. How have you noticed how the society is actually based on cooperation? We have been, going on with our lives thinking we need to compete with each other to succeed or to, have a place in the society. But we are so interconnected. The nature, us as human beings, our body, everything is interconnected. We are not in isolation. And not only just us as nature, these man-made corporates and government, and these are things created by us, right? Even they are so interconnected. We now realize even the value of the help that used to come to our house, and how that person not come to our house can really disrupt our life, and we need them. We need each other during this time. And so and this ambivalence is also natural. So I'm not saying you have to feel grateful all the time and just be, you're so privileged and be grateful and look at the silver lining. It's natural to feel that you're sad also, but you still feel safe. And there are people who are scared. They are scared because there's a pandemic, yet they're hopeful that things will be fine. Some people are very anxious all the time, but they're strong. They're strong enough to not let the anxiety disrupt their daily life. Some people feel they are alone, but they're not lonely, and they're grateful. So these are emotions that you can feel. You can feel two different emotions at the same time, and it is okay. It does seem confusing, but it is okay to feel all of these emotions at the same time as well. We're still trying to understand where all this is coming from, right? So we'll also talk about, okay, I'll help myself, right? I mentioned this earlier about how people are like, I can help myself and I don't need anybody's help, whether it's friends. Like, I don't want to express my emotions, or I don't want to seek a psychiatrist's help or psychologist's help. But even going out there and seeking that help is self-help. I mean, nobody's going to force medication or therapy onto you. It's only when you decide is that this going to happen. Because to tell you the truth, there's a lot of courage required for you to actually seek help and kind of stick to it. That takes a lot of courage. So, and naturally, like every time there's a lot of self-doubt and confusion as well, which is again normal. But again, like I said earlier, you have to stop and think whatever you're doing, whether it is resting. Certain days you rest too much, you don't get up, don't work. There are certain days you don't cook, let's just survive on Maggie or bread. There are certain days you don't want to talk to people. Please understand whether out, and that is your reaction to a burnout that you're feeling, whether this is your coping mechanism, which is an occasional thing, which is helpful because sometimes we need rest, or is it an actual cop out, or actually a way of distracting yourself from the problem that you need to deal with. So you have to understand that people cope in different ways, but you need to understand whether the coping is healthy or not, and not get irritated by other people's coping strategies. There were times when people got irritated because there were people posting kind of recipes on their statuses, or the dishes they cook, or there were some challenges that were happening in terms of some Indian dress challenge and all of that. That is completely their way of coping. They were doing this before this also. It's just that maybe we now have time to see those statuses, and and now we're judging them, and again, based on what we think we should be doing during this time we have, right? So distraction also is a great strategy. I will not deny that, but you have to kind of use that to supplement the healing process. It cannot be just used to go by, because eventually the emotion and the thought that you're feeling, which is not helpful to you, can come back in a very strong and negative, like a strong negative force. So you need to understand that. Everybody has their journey. Everybody's journeys matter. It is absolutely fine how you're coping, but notice your extreme highs and lows. How long have you been feeling this? How strong have you been feeling this? And sometimes certain things that used to be helpful earlier might not be helpful during the pandemic. So that is also a difference. It's not that the strategy itself was wrong. I think it just does not apply in this pandemic situation. So I think after talking so much, everybody would be like, so what do we actually do about all these things, right? So when you feel that you lose control, I think the first thing is to see what in your life is controllable. And that is something applicable beyond the pandemic. There are things in life which are uncontrollable all the time. I think that the routine and the structure actually makes you feel that we are in control. It's a perceived control. We don't really have control on everything around us, right? But there are actual things that which can be controlled. So work on those. Maybe work on your schedule. Work on what you can and cannot do. We all can. What we can do right now is stay indoors. Ensure that we are sanitized, hygiene, and practice physical distancing. These are things that we can naturally do. So these are things we can control, and doing that consistently will make you feel slightly relaxed, because these are something that you have decided to do or not do. Also, the change in habit that I was talking about. It's not about fixing a routine that you have, right? So what you can do is kind of use the old framework that you had of routine and use it to help that as a framework to create a new pattern. It will be you might look, that might look familiar. The old pattern might look familiar, as in you work the same number of hours, ensure you eat things at the same hour, and so some things you can pick up from there. But there's a new routine that you have right now because there are more chores. So the time that you used to travel to and fro from work can be utilized to finish those other chores you have. Or if you want to inculcate a new habit, you can do that. But please ensure that whatever you do during this pandemic, it has to be incremental. It has to be slow. You cannot have a drastically new kind of life during a pandemic. I mean, you could have had that before this, right? This is an anxiety provoking traumatic time, and expecting you to have a brand new routine which is hyper productive and like great, with filled with hundreds of activities, is just not a practical thing to do. So take it slow. Maybe start with one thing at a time. Maybe waking up earlier, or ensuring that you eat meals on time. The existing things that you did, maybe have schedules for that, and then slowly inculcate new habits into your life. Also, I think because of these new routines that you're making, even the things that you are supposed to do on a daily basis are left undone, are left incomplete. And that can again cause a lot of anxiety, and that makes you feel all the more unproductive. So understand what you need to change. Suddenly everybody is using this pandemic, which is such a threat to survival, as a time to inculcate brand new great habits. I mean, first we need to survive and then create new habits, right? Also, keep your to-do list short. Get used to having a routine first before we inculcate anything new. Also, please kind of focus on the fact that people are focusing on the fact that they're kind of bored now, right? They're extremely bored of what is happening. And to talk about boredom. Boredom is a great opportunity. Okay, it is a great opportunity, because till this time, the moment we were bored, we were immediately kind of crushing it with something. You have to stop this endless Netflix binging, addiction, social media scrolling is not helping. And this, you don't realize it's a diversion. You're still bored. Boredom is kind of a time to understand where your mind goes when you're bored. What is the first thing that you want to do? So you kind of discover your creative pursuits, but you have to stop. You have to not kind of jump that you're bored and suddenly jump into these habits that we all have of watching television. It's like very mindless. You're occupying your mind in a very mindless manner. There's no direction to it. So you need to channel this boredom. Like we talk about emotions, there's no good or bad emotion. How you channel it. Boredom has to be channeled in the right direction to kind of fulfill that need. It kind of pushes you towards change, actually. And for everybody, boredom will look different and would feel different as well. So don't always think about things you want to do and continuously fill your day with things so that you don't even feel boredom. That is the whole point. You have to feel your emotions to actually deal with it. Again, monotony, talking about monotony, right? So continue with the existing schedule, a new schedule that you created, which has your daily activities, and maybe break your monotony by doing something special or different during certain days. You can't fill each and every day with exciting activities. Please realize that we are responsible for a lot of things during the day. So you have to break the monotony in every few days by doing something different, maybe. And to avoid health anxiety, please avoid conspiracy theories, avoid unnecessary news, focus on trusted sources, seek information, not interpretation, seek information, and that will help you. the I think loss of identity, like I earlier told you, was defined by the roles that uh, your roles at work, with friends, also about beauty and hobbies. So a lot of people now that can't get out and have disrupted sleep and food habits as well. People have actually lost a lot of weight or gained a lot of weight, have health issues. So that also kind of impacts the identity that they had created for themselves. And it is, this has created a kind of the demonstration of their individualism has been curtailed in a way. So now, like Karishma has mentioned earlier, that we have to start focusing on what we want to do, right? Take a focus away from those goals that you had, that you wanted to achieve in at work and with friends, to what you feel and what you want and what you value and what is important to you. And and this whole goal achievement is because we have a sense of competitiveness. We want to compete with someone and compare ourselves with somebody else's achievement to feel, the achievement. But that does not last. There's always going to be another achievement that you need to achieve. So your identity will keep shifting, and you will keep facing this loss of identity and sense of who you are. That will get questioned, and that will be a natural part of your journey. But at this time, I think we should kind of look inward towards what is important to us. A lot of people are actually feeling jealous of other people's success as well, and it's a normal reaction. This is nothing negative. I'm not saying you should not feel jealous. It is a natural emotion, but kind of think back, where is this jealousy coming from? Because your self identity is unstable, and that's the reason you feel that you need to compete or compare. There's no yardstick for emotions, for achievement, for sense of identity. Please understand that you have to create that for yourself and not depend on outside sources, right? Job can come and go, relations can come and go, and you cannot base your self, your identity and your achievement based on these people. Working from home, Naveen mentioned, he has a lot of time. There are people working from home as well, and we have to have this fixed schedule, right? There are fixed working hours, but have a fixed place to work as well. That becomes your workstation, and that's why going to work makes you more productive, because there's a fixed space where you work, and also you're dressed up and you're motivated. Being in your pages, I don't think will bring out the natural motivation in you, because those are clothes that you relax in, right? People say it does not matter, but it does have its own impacts as well. And maybe chunk your work. If you have a lot of work you have to finish during the day, chunk your work in bits. Don't expect suddenly one day you will be able to clean your house, cook, clean, do other chores in one day. Just chunk your work over the week or during the day, and also take breaks. Don't forget to do that. We've already spoken about survivor's guilt, right? Like, build your own resources in order to help others. That will again reduce the guilt that you're feeling. Job loss is another issue. Relationship losses are another issue. There have been a lot of people who are going through divorce and breakups during this pandemic, as in the 2.5 months has messed up a lot of things for a lot of people. So first of all, the rest of the self-care that I was talking about is something that is very essential to do, because it's only once you relax that you are able to think about the next step. When it's a job loss, you need to understand where are the finances that you need to control, which are the other resources that you have that you can fall back to. Even in relationships, instead of the blame, now you would able to focus on what was actually missing between the two of you, right? And also, and I think communication, because it's so much of personal space has, invasion of personal space, and there's so much constant close proximity. The relationships, that we are interacting in close proximity. So there's enforced socialization, and so I think it's just that we need to realize that during conflict, especially, that there can be two valid points as well. I think that's when the argument goes down. Two people can have different opinions, and both of those can be right as well. And I think sense of, again, please keep in touch with people. There might be times that you don't have the energy, but it should not become a pattern where you do not keep in touch with people. And there might be some irritation that you have from other people's reaction as well, because everybody's coping, everybody's irritated with, not with each other, but kind of irritated with the situation, and there's invasion of space. And so have open communication, especially with people who affect your daily life, especially when you need space, right? There are those invisible boundaries that we have now and if somebody looks free, does not mean that they are free. They might be mentally or emotionally occupied in some way. And the vocabulary that we use, right? There is a lot of blame happening, that this is something you always do, or this is something you never do, you never help me, or you always blame me. So the moment you make sentences like this, the other person is bound to be very defensive, and this is not going to help your relationship in any way. Also, again, with family, share laughs together, maybe watch funny program, because laughing together kind of stimulates that bond in a lot of ways. And create rituals that help you connect, have rituals of your own, new rituals that you can build. So don't overly depend on each other. Yes, we need validation from each other, but it should not become any pattern, because it's not going to reduce your anxiety, but you will become overly dependent on the other person. So I'm sure, okay, after listening to all this, almost all of you, maybe not all, but yeah, more than 90% of the people would be like, these are so basic. Like, these are things we already know. We can read this in a blog. What was this all about? Just let me ask you that when we talk about this pandemic, what is being said? It is being said to wash your hands and not touch your face. It is that basic. It is, something that we used to teach our children, but we never applied in our life, to wash our hands because they're dirty. But none of the adults actually applying in their life. So life actually, and mental health is actually basic. It is very, very simple. There's no high funda, gyan or logic. I can make it into one big workshop of 7 days and give you the gyan. But then, to tell you the truth, if we do very basic things on a consistent and regular manner, that itself is, fine, kind of will maintain your mental health. Because this extremely deadly virus, to kind of protect yourself, soap is enough. People are saying just wash your hands with soap, because we understand it is made of such components that soap is enough to kind of not let it affect us in any way. So if none of us are doing basic care, but for mental health, people are expecting to kind of receive some high funda, some magical solution to feel great. But then to feel great, you need to do basic things well. When you plant the seedling, just give it sun and water, and as basic as that will help it grow. And maintenance just requires watering it every day. You can't expect to do one week or 1 month or 1 year of intensive self-care and leave it at that. It is maintenance. Deterioration is a natural process. Please understand that mental, emotional health, physical health, everything, like your house, your physical things around you, deterioration is natural. Safeguarding it, taking care of it, and maintaining it is in your hands for it to be in a healthy condition, right? And also, while talking about this, I want to tell you, like, anything, mental, emotional health, physical health is a continuum. Okay, there is only comparison with oneself. So if today I'm feeling good, I'm saying this based on how I was feeling like a moment ago or yesterday. And it is constantly in flux, and it keeps changing. It's very dynamic. It is all, like I was talking about, the process of it. It's like a pendulum swing. We will feel great today and not so great tomorrow. And if with others, please understand that if something's looking good, you can kind of reframe your thinking as, okay, if they can do it during a pandemic, I can do. So situation can improve. Today I might not be feeling good, tomorrow I can. And also understand that there are people who look doing great in life on social media might not really be doing good in real life. But this is not a sadistic pleasure that I'm asking you to seek, but understand that everybody is going through their ups and downs, and it's a natural process. Healing and life is not a linear process. It is going to have its ups and downs. And without maintaining anything, you cannot expect things, mental health, to be fine. We did not we did not value mental health till the pandemic hit us, and now we are really realizing that things were not fine. We were not okay. We were stressed for so long, and now that is being expressed during the pandemic, because now there's no distraction for us. So, like I emphasized earlier, work on what can be controlled. Do not focus on what cannot, we cannot control. What can be controlled. And the circumstances have changed dramatically. So, align your expectations from yourself and also others according to how the circumstances have changed, right? And the change has to be small, incremental, and consistent. And realize that harmony has been difficult even in the best of times. So pandemic is not the right time to create this magnificent life that we are trying to achieve. Now we realize there's so many people in our society that we considered insignificant actually make the foundation of our society and economy, right? So the same way, this is for us. The basic routines of our life, which we think is unimportant, which is like sleep and good diet, things like that, are actually very, very basic, and like they're the foundation of good mental and physical health. Talking about again validation of feelings, right? We need each other's support, but don't become too dependent on each other, right? Don't become too dependent, because even they are facing a lot of difficulties, and they might not be able to support you the way you expect them to. Also, back to again mental health, that people say that I will talk and connect to my friend, and talking to a friend is like therapy. Talking to a friend is not like therapy, because first, the therapist or psychologist is a professional. Two, it is not just about talking. It is an objective, unbiased perspective, and it gives you direction. And as I told you earlier, it takes courage to begin and stick to any kind of therapy. It takes courage to accept problems. It takes courage to be vulnerable. And also, it is about taking full responsibility of your pain and healing. There will be nobody there helping you out of the pain or the healing process. So it is okay to feel distressed, but then if it is going towards depression, it is going towards something that is hampering your daily life, please seek out help. Please do seek out help. And I think I'll end the session by saying two things, right? There is this attempt that we are all making to remove anxiety from our lives completely. But we are human beings, right? The whole point should be about building resilience, right? Like when we talk about health, building our immunity. Immunity building does not mean that we will not fall sick ever again. It just means we will recover quicker and easily. The same way with resilience. It's not about our life not having problems. The problems are created only when we don't have the resilience and we process the incident as troublesome. That's when it taxes your mental health. And also, I think I'll again say that it is okay to not feel okay. It is okay to not be productive, but ensure that you make those small healthy changes, because that is absolutely, like a foundation for good mental health. So again, let me just remind you what those basic things are, right? So actually, good sleep, food. You have to reframe a lot of things in your life, the way you think about things. And yes, it is. Talking about tips to how to think better. It also depends upon various variables in your life as well. So in a way, process all those resources that you have, which you can use to support to build that resilience emotionally and mentally. Further, obviously, each topic, right? Each topic can be taken as a separate discussion in itself. And if you really feel these small tips are not helping you, these are basic tips. There are no other tips for basic maintenance of mental health, right? So of coping, because there's a difference between a treatment, a coping, a prevention, and a promotion of mental health. Preventing is not, you don't have a mental health issue, and you're doing things so that you don't have issues in future as well. Promotion is you are in good health and you make it even better. Treatment is when you really realize that you need a professional's help. So see, if you are unable to kind of motivate yourself and decide and go with things that you have decided to go with, then I think it is time to seek out a professional help. And right now, almost all mental health professionals are working for free as well. There are a lot of free helplines. So this is, I think, a great time to seek out that help. The uh, or guidance that you need. So again, like, let me end with this by saying that, like, it is as basic as washing your hands to kind of save yourself from the virus. The same way, these are the small things are the things that you need to consistently do. It doesn't matter if you fail one day, you continue to stick to that plan. You go back to that plan each and every day to build that as a habit and to improve your mental health. Okay. Thank you so much. If there is any other questions that you have, you can go ahead and ask me. If there is any other comments that you have, if you want to say something, you can go ahead and let me know. So if you're feeling extreme anxiety and it is very difficult now to cope with it, it's been 2.5 months, right? You can kind of see how long you've been feeling this anxiety where you are not able to handle it anymore, and you're breaking down and you're crying, and just you have not been able to pull yourself up. Please contact a therapist. Please, you can search online. There are n number of therapists. They're working free of cost now, considering the situation. Please seek help. And it is not necessary that it has to go on for years. It could be just one phone call and it might change things for you. But you need to reach out. It is, I think, time to reach out if the anxiety is extreme. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, Rashmi, yeah. So anxiety means like what I wanted to tell is like, suppose if we go, I mean, it's like before the lockdown or something like that. Suppose if we travel and maybe, I don't know, maybe the traveling stress or the responsibility, whatever we have. So sometimes we get anxiety, which we cannot control. Like, examples, visit the places, and to cover the time, I mean, the time limit will be very less, and we feel like little restlessness or anxiety kind of thing. So how can we cope up that issue?
So to be feeling this anxiety because of a factor that you think. For example, if you're saying there is a time limit and you're feeling restless and anxious, right?
Yeah.
I want to understand that why do you want to not feel that? I mean, feeling negative emotions, anything, whether fear, anger, jealousy, sadness, is part of us being human, right? The point is, again, the reason I said negative emotions is that is how people are processing emotions. There are these good emotions which are happy and happiness and elation and laughter and excitement, and feelings like sadness and anger are termed as negative emotions. We are human beings, right? So we need to feel all these emotions. We need to feel that anxiety, because if there is a time limit and you are not anxious and you're not restless, you will not care about the time limit, right? If you are not fearful, if you don't have fear inside of you, you will never even care while walking the road, crossing the road. You just cross the road even if there was traffic. So all these so-called negative emotions, or that those emotions that we would prefer not feeling, are actually helping us survive. We need to have that fear. We need to have that restlessness. We need to feel bored. We need to feel angry. These are the things that indicate like pain in our body. I'll give you this example. Like pain in our body is essential, right? Because if there is pain, your body is telling you there is a problem. If there was no pain at all, you will never know that you have any physical ailment. You will never get diagnosed because there's no pain, there's no discomfort. If there's no discomfort, you will not go to a doctor to get yourself tested, right? So pain is a way of your body communicating to you that there is a problem. So seek solution. The same way of all these emotions are a way your mind tells you there is a problem. Definitely, if the fear is excessive, that you are unable to go on, like there is a time limit and you're panicking and you just cannot walk anymore, then it is time to seek help. But feeling all these emotions is natural. It's being human. Why remove that, right? That is part of being human. All these emotions are part of us. It is okay to feel all of that. There's nothing is wrong or nothing is bad.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Rashmi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you so much.
Anybody else has any question?
Audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just telling thanks for all of you guys joining the call. And like if you have any questions, please write down to us. We will connect you to Rashmi, or if you want a particular topic which you want to like discuss or you want to know more about it, please do write on that as well. So we will be able to connect to Rashmi, or if somebody else who can take up the session, we would love to do that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Amrita.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rashmi, once again. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye. Happy weekend.
Bye.
Bye.